October 28, 1600. The battlefield of Sekigahara, nestled in the mountains of Gifu Prefecture, Japan, lay shrouded in a thick, unnatural mist. The stench of iron, blood, and decaying flesh hung heavy in the cool autumn air, a macabre perfume rising from the tens of thousands of unburied dead. Monk Kenshin, a weary-eyed acolyte from Onryō temple, knelt amidst the carnage, his hands clasped around a string of prayer beads, his voice a low, rhythmic chant of sutras. He had come, dispatched by his temple, to perform Gokuraku Iki, rites for the peaceful passage of the departed souls. A monumental task given the scale of the slaughter. As he recited the Nembutsu, a sudden, profound chill descended, piercing through his simple robes, a cold that bit deeper than the autumnal air. His breath misted, and the mist around him seemed to thicken, swirling with an unseen energy. Then, from the very ground beneath him, a low, guttural growl vibrated through his bones, a sound of unimaginable fury that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. The air shimmered, and Kenshin saw it, a fleeting, spectral figure, clad in the tattered remnants of samurai armor, its kabuto helmet askew, its form indistinct, yet radiating an aura of palpable, seething hatred. The figure stood for a moment, its phantom hand gripping an invisible katana, before vanishing into the swirling fog. Simultaneously, Kenshin's prayer beads, ancient and blessed, shattered in his grasp, scattering across the blood-soaked earth like broken teeth. A high-pitched, almost feminine shriek, filled with an agonizing resentment, tore through the air, seeming to come from every direction at once, silencing the chirping of crickets and the distant caw of crows. Kenshin, a man of unwavering faith, felt his resolve waver. This was not merely the grief of the dead. This was something far more potent. The Battle of Sekigahara, fought on October 21st, 1600, or Keicho 5, 15th day of the 9th month according to the traditional Japanese lunar calendar, stands as arguably the most pivotal conflict in Japanese history. It was the climactic engagement of the Sengoku period, a century of civil war and social upheaval, and it effectively established the Tokugawa shogunate, which would rule Japan for over 250 years, ushering in an unprecedented era of peace. The battle pitted the forces loyal to Tokugawa Ieyasu, the future shogun, against the Western army, led by Ishida Mitsunari, a loyalist to the Toyotomi clan. Though relatively short, lasting only a single day, the battle was a colossal clash of samurai armies, involving an estimated 160,000 to 200,000 warriors. The terrain, a narrow valley flanked by hills and mountains in Mino province, funneled the vast armies into a brutal, close-quarters engagement. The conflict was characterized by shifts in loyalty, betrayal, and immense personal courage. The defection of key generals like Kobayakawa Hideaki, who switched sides mid-battle, ultimately sealed the Western Army's fate. The scale of the slaughter was horrific. Estimates suggest anywhere from 30,000 to 60,000 casualties, a staggering number for a single day of combat. The aftermath was even more grim. The victorious Tokugawa forces focused on consolidating their power, and hunting down remnants of the Western Army left the vast majority of the defeated dead unburied on the battlefield. Bodies, mutilated and dismembered, lay exposed to the elements, picked apart by scavengers, their blood saturating the soil. The heads of defeated commanders and prominent samurai were taken as trophies, displayed for public humiliation, further compounding the dishonor of the vanquished. This lack of proper burial, a crucial rite in Buddhist and Shinto traditions for the peaceful passage of the soul, created a sacred wound on the landscape, a place where profound suffering, bitterness, and the unaddressed grievances of tens of thousands of warriors were concentrated. The sheer scale of unmitigated death and dishonor set the stage for something far more sinister than mere historical memory. In Japanese folklore and spiritual belief, death, particularly violent or unjust death, holds immense power. When a person dies with overwhelming negative emotions, profound grief, hatred, jealousy, or a desire for vengeance, their spirit can become an Onryō. The term Onryō, Yenling, literally translates to vengeful spirit, and these entities are far more terrifying than simple ghosts. Unlike residual hauntings, Onryō are conscious, malevolent beings whose intense negative emotions during life, amplified by the circumstances of their death, transcend the boundary between the living and the dead. They cannot find peace and are compelled to exact revenge, often causing harm or death to the living, not always targeting those directly responsible for their suffering, but anyone who crosses their path or exists within their sphere of influence. What distinguishes Onryō from other Japanese spirits, yurei, is their profound, corrosive hatred. This hatred is so potent that it can warp reality itself. They can manifest physically, causing phenomena like sudden drops in temperature, poltergeist-like activity, disembodied screams or whispers that drive the living to madness. Their presence can induce inexplicable illnesses, bad luck, or even cause environmental decay. They are often depicted with long, disheveled black hair, white kimonos, funeral attire, and contorted, hateful expressions. However, the Onryō born from samurai, especially those who died in battle with profound grievances, betrayal, dishonor, unfulfilled duty, or the loss of their domain and family, are considered particularly potent. These warrior Onryō might appear in their tattered armor, eternally replaying their final moments or endlessly searching for their betrayers. The Battle of Sekigahara, with its massive casualties, its strategic betrayals, and the ignominious abandonment of the dead, created an almost perfect cauldron for the birth of a multitude of powerful Onryō. The sheer volume of concentrated, unburied resentment, particularly from the Western Army's fallen commanders who felt betrayed by their allies, could theoretically lead to an enduring collective manifestation of vengeance, a spiritual anomaly that would not merely haunt, but actively pollute the very fabric of the battlefield for centuries to come. The goal of Buddhist monks like Kenshin performing Gokuraku Ikki was to prevent such an outcome, to guide these souls to enlightenment and peace. But what if the bitterness was too deep, the betrayal too profound, for even the most sacred rituals to overcome? Monk Kenshin was not alone in his grim task. He was accompanied by his young acolyte, Ren, a quiet, observant boy of 12, whose purity of spirit Kenshin hoped would offer some spiritual protection. Their local guide was Hiroki, a weathered, pragmatic former Ashigaru foot soldier who had survived the battle, haunted by its memories but outwardly stoic. Kenshin's mission, dispatched from Onryaku-ji, one of Japan's most revered Buddhist centers, was clear: perform rituals of nembutsu and sutras to guide the unburied souls towards peace, a task of immense spiritual merit and practical necessity. The initial incidents on October 28th, with the shattered prayer beads and the spectral samurai, were merely a prelude. As Kenshin, Ren, and Hiroki began their work, moving from one mass grave, or rather field of unburied bodies, to another, the anomalies intensified. October 30th. The mist here is unlike any natural fog, Kenshin recorded in his small, bamboo-bound journal. It carries the scent of blood and decay, not just from the bodies, but from something deeper. Ren complains of a pervasive chill, even when the sun breaks through. Hiroki, the pragmatic warrior, often dismissed the strange occurrences. It is the trauma of the battle monk. The mind plays tricks in such a place. Yet, Kenshin noticed his guide's eyes constantly scanning the tree line, his hand never far from the hilt of his short sword. The voices began on November 2nd. As Kenshin recited the Heart Sutra over a mound of decomposing bodies, faint whispers rose from the ground, indistinct at first, then resolving into fragmented Japanese words: betrayal, cowardice, vengeance. The whispers were laced with an unbearable agony and fury. Ren clutched Kenshin's robe, his face pale. "Master, I hear them."
"They are so angry!" Kenshin tried to dismiss it as the wind, but the voices spoke with an intimate, raw hatred that sent shivers down his spine. Hiroki, his face grim, whispered, "The dead are restless." Visual anomalies grew more frequent and disturbing.
On November 5th, while collecting the skulls of fallen warriors for a temporary cenotaph, Kenshin saw a clear, momentary vision of a group of samurai, fully formed but translucent, engaged in a furious, silent skirmish. Their movements were desperate, their katanas clashing with phantom sparks before they dissolved like smoke. Then he heard a chilling, high-pitched clang, the unmistakable sound of a blade striking steel. Hiroki, though he denied seeing the figures, instinctively reached for his weapon. That night, Kenshin wrote in his journal, "The air itself here is filled with suffering. It is not merely residual energy, there is a consciousness here."
A hatred. The distinct scent of iron and ash, mixed with something inexplicably sweet and cloying, became pervasive, making it difficult to breathe, even though no fires were present. The temperature drops were abrupt and extreme, manifesting as localized pockets of profound cold that seemed to drain the warmth from Kenshin's very bones.
His health began to deteriorate. He suffered from persistent nausea, headaches, and a profound, bone-deep weariness that no rest could alleviate. November 8th. My body feels as though it is being consumed from within. The cold touches my soul. This place, it poisons the living. The spirits became more aggressive. On November 10th, Ren was found huddled by a fallen tree, trembling uncontrollably. He claimed to have seen a spectral horseman, its armor black as pitch, its eyes glowing with malevolent red light, charging directly at him before vanishing inches away. The boy was suffering from profound shock and a fever that spiked dangerously. Kenshin, alarmed, realized the rituals were having the opposite effect. They were not calming the spirits, but agitating them, drawing their fury. The psychological torment was profound. Kenshin found himself plagued by vivid, horrifying visions during his meditations, scenes of grotesque mutilation, of dismembered bodies, of screaming men and desperate betrayals. He heard constant, warring voices in his mind, commanders shouting orders, soldiers screaming in agony, the desperate pleas of dying men. Hiroki, the pragmatic guide, began to exhibit signs of mental deterioration. He grew paranoid, muttering to himself, often drawing his sword and lunging at empty air, convinced he was fighting invisible foes. "They are here," he would shout, eyes wide with terror. "The traitors! They will pay!" The culmination came on November 14th. Kenshin, witnessing Hiroki's rapid descent into madness, realized they were trapped. The field, usually open, seemed to shift and change around them, the paths to the distant village vanishing, replaced by impenetrable thickets or unsettlingly familiar landmarks, as if they were caught in a malicious loop. As Kenshin attempted to lead Ren and a now raving Hiroki towards what he hoped was the road, the mist thickened into an impenetrable swirling vortex of grey and black. The air grew impossibly cold, and the ground beneath them vibrated with a deafening, guttural roar. Then, through the swirling miasma, they saw them, dozens, perhaps hundreds, of spectral samurai, their forms more substantial than before, their tattered jingasa and domaru armor shimmering with a faint, unholy light. They were not merely replaying a battle, they were moving with a unified, malicious purpose. At the forefront, two colossal figures emerged, radiating an oppressive aura of pure, concentrated hatred. One, an imposing general in black, shattered armor, his face a mask of rage, pointed an ethereal yari spear towards Kenshin. The other, clad in white, blood-stained robes, its long black hair obscuring a featureless face, slowly turned its head towards them, its eyes glowing with an incandescent, vengeful light. It was Ishida Mitsunari, betrayed and executed, and perhaps Kobayakawa Hideaki, the traitor, forever bound in a spectral conflict, their collective hatred warping the very fabric of the battlefield. The samurai phantoms advanced, their silent steps resonating with the sound of 1,000 clashing blades. Hiroki screamed, drawing his katana and charging headlong into the apparitions, his cries of "for Toyotomi," lost in the supernatural roar. Kenshin, clutching a terrified Ren, instinctively pulled the boy behind a gnarled oak, feeling the profound chill of countless unseen bodies pressing in around him. He knew then these were not mere echoes. These were Onryō, and they would not find peace until their hatred consumed the living. The chilling, almost unbelievable accounts from monk Kenshin, the sole survivor of his party, were initially met with profound skepticism by the Buddhist hierarchy at Enryaku-ji Temple, an outright dismissal by the newly established Tokugawa shogunate. The shogunate, eager to project an image of stability and divine mandate, had no desire to acknowledge a battlefield literally haunted by the vengeful spirits of its vanquished foes. However, Kenshin, a monk of impeccable reputation and deep spiritual insight, did not waver in his testimony. His face etched with a permanent terror, his hair turned stark white, and his persistent physiological symptoms, chronic exhaustion, cold sensitivity, and phantom smells, compelled his superiors to seek an unofficial, more discreet consultation. They turned to Master Jinbei, a reclusive but widely respected ascetic and master of esoteric Buddhist practices, known for his deep understanding of Onryō law and his ability to interact with the spiritual realm. Master Jinbei, after a week-long intense meditation session following Kenshin's testimony, penned a highly confidential report that was circulated only among the most senior monks and a select few shogunate advisors. The Sekigahara battlefield is not merely a place of death, Jinbei wrote, his brushstrokes precise despite the chilling subject. It is a nexus of profound on-enen, concentrated resentment and karmic grievance. The scale of unburied dead, the acts of betrayal, and the sheer desperation of those who fought and died dishonored have coalesced into a unique and potent form of Onryō. This is not the singular spirit of a wronged individual, but a collective manifestation of the battlefield's suffering. The spiritual essence of commanders like Ishida Mitsunari, who died with their honor tarnished and their loyalties betrayed, fuel this entity, their hatred so immense it pollutes the very land. Jinbei explained that the phenomena Kenshin experienced, the localized cold, the voices, the visual distortions, the aggressive manifestations, were all consistent with the actions of powerful Onryō. Their hatred warps perception, disrupts reality and poisons the living. They seek not merely vengeance, but to perpetuate their suffering, to drag the living into their eternal conflict. He described Hiroki's madness and tragic charge as a direct influence of these spirits, forcing him to reenact the battle's trauma. The boy Ren's exposure, while less severe, would leave permanent spiritual scars. Master Jinbei stressed that conventional Gokuraku Iki rituals designed for individual souls were insufficient. Such small blessings only stirred the hornet's nest. To appease this collective Onryō, one must acknowledge the totality of the suffering, address the profound dishonor, and find a way to offer true peace to tens of thousands of aggrieved souls. He recommended the construction of a large, permanent memorial temple on the battlefield itself, dedicated to all the fallen, regardless of allegiance, to house their spirits and facilitate their passage. He also advised a series of grand, long-term Buddhist ceremonies involving many monks to purify the land and offer collective kuyo, memorial offerings. Most critically, he emphasized the need for a period of profound spiritual peace and reconciliation in Japan, arguing that the lingering hatred from the Sengoku period continued to feed the Onryō of Sekigahara. The immediate consequences of the Sekigahara incident, as witnessed by monk Kenshin, were profound and long-lasting. Kenshin himself, though surviving, was a broken man. He became a hermit within the secluded confines of Onryakuji, dedicating his life to incessant prayer and the transcription of sutras, his personal ordeal a stark reminder of the spiritual dangers of unaddressed grievances. His hair remained white, and he forever carried the scent of iron and decay, an olfactory phantom. He died years later, his face frozen in a look of quiet terror, muttering about the great hatred and the endless battle. Ren, the young acolyte, though physically unharmed, suffered from a profound spiritual shock. He abandoned his monastic path, returning to a simple, quiet life as a farmer, forever avoiding battlefields and places of conflict, his eyes holding a depth of sorrow far beyond his years. Hiroki, the pragmatic guide, was never seen again. His fate remains lost to the mists of history, presumed to have been absorbed into the spectral conflict he willingly rejoined. The Tokugawa shogunate, despite its initial skepticism, tacitly acknowledged Master Jinbei's warnings. While no official statements were made about Onryō or spiritual phenomena, a large memorial mound, the Kubizuka, Mound of Heads, was indeed erected on the battlefield, interring the collected heads of the defeated. More importantly, in the ensuing decades of the Tokugawa era, a deliberate and successful policy of internal peace and reconciliation was pursued, effectively bringing an end to the brutal Sengoku period. Buddhist temples across Japan, including Onryakuji, received increased patronage, and large-scale memorial services for the war dead became more common, subtly fulfilling Jinbei's recommendations for collective kuyo. This period of peace, whether intentionally or not, likely contributed to a gradual reduction of the intense spiritual turbulence at Sekigahara. However, the battlefield was never truly purified. Even centuries later, the area around Sekigahara has retained a reputation Local folklore speaks of unsettling phenomena, inexplicable chills, disembodied whispers carried on the wind, the faint clang of unseen swords, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Farmers and travelers avoid certain sections of the battlefield after dark, fearing the angry dead, ikkyo or mwenbotoke, unfortunates. While the raw, destructive fury witnessed by Kenshin has likely receded, perhaps as the collective memory of the initial betrayal faded, the lingering resentment, the Onryō's essence, remains etched into the land. Archaeologists and historians visiting the site sometimes report strange malfunctions with electronic equipment, sudden drops in temperature, or brief, chilling olfactory sensations of ash and iron, all subtle echoes of the profound spiritual scars. The battlefield of Sekigahara remains not merely a historical site, but a place imbued with the collective grief and enduring resentment of tens of thousands of warriors, a chilling testament to the power of hatred even beyond death. It is a subtle, lingering haunting, a monument to a terrible rage that refuses to truly dissipate. Thank you for joining for this exploration of how the intense, unaddressed suffering of a forgotten battlefield can give rise to something far more terrifying than historical memory. The story of Sekigahara and its Onryō serves as a profound reminder that human emotions, particularly those as potent as hatred and betrayal, can transcend the boundaries of life and death, leaving an indelible mark on the very fabric of reality. It forces us to confront the chilling notion that the spiritual world is inextricably linked with the physical, and that true peace may sometimes only be achieved by addressing the deepest grievances of the departed. The samurai of Sekigahara, betrayed and unburied, continue their eternal vigil, their rage a chilling whisper carried on the wind, a testament to the enduring power of resentment. If you found this exploration into the shadows of history compelling, please consider liking this video, sharing it with those who appreciate the darker corners of our past, and subscribing to Dr. A Whisper of War for more journeys into the unexplained and the unsettling. Your comments and theories are always welcome below. Until next time, remember that some battles are never truly over and some hatred never truly dies.